Helio Gracie was born October 1st, 1913. When he was around 8 years old, financial hardships forced their family to move from their hometown Belém de Pará to Rio de Janeiro. Young Helio suffered from severe vertigo and other health ailments. Helio's older brother Carlos had met Mitsuyo Maeda before they left. Maeda was a Japanese Jiu Jitsu and Judo master. He traveled from Japan to Brazil to teach martial arts. Carlos would train under Mitsuyo and pass down everything he learned to his brothers. But Helio, being in poor health, couldn't spar with his brothers. Instead, he'd watch from the side and learn the fundamentals visually. In 1925, Carlos would open the first Jiu-Jitsu academy in Rio. Carlos would invite all of his brothers to the academy. This is where Helio would first begin real sparring, despite his brothers' worry about his health. They'd all soon realize that simply by watching them train, Helio had a great fundamental understanding of Jiu-Jitsu. Realizing this, Carlos would allow Helio to start training every day, despite his health woes. Not long after this, Helio became the golden student of the Gracie gym in Rio. The same year Helio Gracie had his first no-rules Vale Tudo fight, Planio Salgado would create the Brazilian Integralist movement. Planio Salgado founded the Brazilian Integralist movement in October of 1932. They would release their manifesto.
To the Brazilian nation, to the country's workers and labor unions, to men of culture and thought, to the youth of schools and trenches, to the armed classes. 1. Conception of man and the universe. God leads the destinies of peoples. Man must practice on earth the virtues that elevate and enhance him. Man is worthy by work, by sacrifice in favor of family, of fatherland and of society. Worthy by study, by intelligence, by honesty, by progress in the sciences, in arts, in technical capacity, aiming at the welfare of the nation and the moral enhancement of the people. Wealth is a temporary good that does not magnify anyone if it is not complied with their holders' strictly enforced duties to society and the fatherland. Everyone can and must live in harmony, respecting and cherishing each other, each distinguishing themselves in their aptitudes, because every man has a vocation, and is the set of those vocations that realizes the greatness of nationality and social happiness. Men and classes, therefore, can and must live in harmony. It is possible for the more modest workers to climb a high intellectual or financial position. Each rises according to his vocation. All men are liable to social harmonization, and all superiority comes from one superiority that exists above men, their common and supernatural purpose. This is a profoundly Brazilian thought that comes from the Christian roots of our history and is in the inmost of all our hearts. 3. The principle of authority. One nation, to progress in peace, to see their efforts bear fruit, to achieve prestige in its interior and exterior, needs to have a perfect conscience of the principle of authority. We need authority capable of taking initiatives for the benefit of each and every one, able to prevent the rich, the powerful, the foreigners, the political groups to influence government decisions, undermining the fundamental interests of the nation. We need hierarchy, discipline, without which there will be only disorder. A government that comes from the free will of all classes is representative of the fatherland. As such, should be assisted, respected, esteemed, and prestigious. In it should stand the people's trust. To the government should be provided the means to maintain social justice, the harmony of all classes, always seeking the higher interests of the Brazilian community. Hierarchy, trust, order, peace, respect. Here is what we need in Brazil. 10. The Integralist State. We intend to conduct the Integralist State, free of any principle of division, political parties, statisms in the struggle for hegemony, class struggles, local factions, warlordisms, disorganized economy, antagonisms between the military and the civilians, antagonisms between state militias and the army, between the government and the people, between the government and the intellectuals, between those and the popular masses. We intend to operate the classic powers, executive, legislative, and judicial, according to the impositions of the organized nation, with bases in its productive classes, in the city and the family. We intend to create the supreme authority of the nation. We intend to mobilize all technical capabilities, all scientists, all artists, all professionals, each acting within its sphere, to realize the greatness of the Brazilian nation. We intend to take as the basis of the great nation, the man of our own land, in his historical, geographical, economic reality, in his character, his nature, his aspirations, studying it deeply, according to science and morality. From this biological and psychological element, deduct social relations, with secure standards of law, education, economic policy, legal grounds. As the dome of this building, we will accomplish the supreme idea, the synthesis of our civilization, in philosophy, in literature, in the arts which express the meaning of our national and human spirit. We intend to create, with all the racial elements, according to mesological and economic imperatives, the Brazilian nation, saving them from the errors of capitalist civilization and the mistakes of communist barbarism. Create in a single expression the economic state, the financial state, the representative state, and the cultural state. We intend to raise the Brazilian population in an unprecedented union, in a force never achieved, in a hope never imagined. We intend to lay the foundations for an educational system to ensure the survival of the nation in the future. We intend to inject energy to the youth, pluck them out of the disbelief, apathy, skepticism, and sorrow in which they live, teach them the lesson of courage, instilling in them the certainty of the value that each has within himself, as the son of Brazil and of America. Drive the popular masses in a great affirmation of rejuvenation. Shake the fibers of the fatherland. Save it from its depression, its dismay, its sorrow, so it walks, starting the new civilization, which, by our strength, by our audacity, through faith we will come from Brazil, ignite our continent, and influence even in the world. For this, we will fight the ironists, the indifferent, the disillusioned, the unbelievers, because this time we swore not to rest a moment until we are victorious or dead, because with us wins or dies the fatherland. These are the paths of our march.
Helio would join the Integralists in 1930. An exact date isn't known for 100% certainty. He was part of the first center and second academy in Panama, where he would teach martial arts to the Integralist militiamen. In July of 1936, Helio would participate in the national sports competition, which was promoted by the Integralists. In their newspaper, A Ofensiva, readers would vote for their favorite athlete. Helio would come in 7th place, receiving 1,797 votes. In August, he would come in 9th place, receiving 3,377 votes. In September of 1936, Helio represented the Integralist Physical Education School. The Integralist newspaper A Razão, dated September 9, 1936, said, "The parade of the Integralist Physical Education School took place today, specially invited to take place in the festivities in honor of Race Day. The Integralist School is represented by 82 athletes, including the Brazilian free squid champion Helio Gracie." In 1937, Helio Gracie would fight Takao Yano, and Helio's signing of the contract would make it on the front page of A Ofensiva. The fight would end in a draw. The Integralists were very popular amongst the common people in Brazil. The main resistance was from the communists. The Integralists would actively engage in fights on the streets with the communists, which undoubtedly, having the godfather of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in their corner, gave them the upper hand. Helio Gracie's niece would speak about her uncle's affiliation with the Integralists, saying,
Uncle Helio's connection to integralism was more influenced by a fad of the time of more conservative groups that identified with the valorization of the exacerbated nationalism preached by Plinio Salgado, and also because he sympathized with the militaristic aspect of the Integralists. On the other hand, in the 1950s, he joined Juscelino's party and after the dictatorship went to support Leonel Brizola in Rio, an explicitly left-wing politician. Deep down there was a great deal of political ignorance, and his evaluations and adhesions were very circumstantial. It wasn't a strictly ideological position.
Historian Jose Tufe Carias would also write about Helio's affiliation, saying the following.
Of the 3 Gracie brothers who became instrumental in the creation of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Carlos, George, and Helio, only the last one showed public support for integralism. When analyzing Helio's affiliation with radical ideologies, one might be tempted to claim that he was merely placing himself in the middle of a passing political trend. But in some ways, his support for the Brazilian version of fascism was expected. In addition, the party valued youth, virility, and male aggressiveness. Helio's bellicose personality and past transgressions made his affiliation with the Green Shirts unsurprising.
The Gracie family is the single most important family in martial arts history. They have produced world champion after world champion in martial arts consistently for decades. From the first UFC champion, Royce Gracie, up until this very day, you can find somebody with Brazilian Jiu Jitsu tied to their name.